Joining me now is UFC middleweight fighter who takes on Marvin Vettori at UFC Glendale on April 14th. It is the last stylebender, Israel Adesanya, joining me here on the program for the very first time. Israel, how are you?
I'm great, my man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it. And congrats on your debut win. Let's talk about that. UFC 221, Perth, Australia. You go in there and knock out Rob Wilkinson in the second round. You did the sort of so-so with your hand. You weren't super happy with the win, but nonetheless, it was a great victory in your debut. How long did it take for that to sink in? To me, this is only the first time talking to you, but from what I've seen, it seems like it sunk in pretty quickly. Is that accurate?
Yeah. For me, I didn't really feel like it was the best performance or my best showing, but I feel like I've been doing this for a while, like I said, and I know what I'm capable of, and yeah, I just can't wait to get it again so I can show the world what I can really do. And every time it's just going to get better. Like that was only like maybe level 2, maybe gear 2. So I can't wait till I hit my stride in the UFC. I'm just feeling the same. I'm feeling the vibe of the whole thing, but I'm keeping the same energy.
I know we were briefly talking off air a second ago, and you sort of talked about, or in other interviews, you've talked about how you feel you've been in the spot for quite a while, throughout your Glory career, throughout your kickboxing career, coming up on the MMA scene, down in New Zealand and Australia, but you still, you weren't in the UFC, now you are. Do you feel like with this win last month, your life has changed?
The life of the people around me have changed, like not my close circle, but like, people trying to get in now, people trying to hop on the bandwagon, which is cool, and I don't mind. This is this is what I'm supposed to do. This is prize fighting, and to get prizes in this game, you need people to follow your career, and you need to put asses in seats. So yeah, the train's still at the station, and it's about to leave off. So I'm welcoming everybody to the hype train.
Even just walking down the street, have you started to get noticed a bit more, or not quite?
Yeah, out here. A few people, actually quite a lot, like when I do my laundry, when I'm at the gas station, people are honking their horns at me saying what's up. But for me, I finally found an analogy to deal with this, or to explain how it is. It's kind of like, I've been trying to eat for a long time, so you can't really complain about having a lot on your plate when you're trying to eat, and I'm eating good now. But imagine, like, say, I thought I'm going to get a Ferrari after all this time. You finally get this Ferrari, and then you're in the car, you start, push the start, and you put your foot on the gas, and you feel the speed. You're like, whoa, okay, this is something I got to get used to a little bit. But I've driven cars before. This ain't no thing. And then you just kind of like put your foot on the pedal, find your rhythm, find the groove of the car. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now in my life. Like I said, I'm keeping the same energy. I'm in the driver's seat, and I'm just putting my foot on the gas, but I'm finding my rhythm. I find the speed.
And it must be evident to you that you're a fighter the UFC plans on pushing. They want to push you. They see the potential in you. Is that something that's all very obvious to you, the fact that you're a fighter the UFC sort of has high hopes for?
100%. I always knew. Ever since my first fight, people always kind of said this shit about me. So I was like, okay, sure, whatever. I'm just going to keep doing me. But, yeah, I keep the same energy. And I know that they're going to, even as soon as I go to the arena, they kind of just said, okay, everyone hang back, Stylebender, you come off the bus first. And I walked up the bus first, and I kind of knew from there, like, okay, it's different. And before that, I've been getting that kind of treatment, being one of the only guys on the, I think, prelims to get a pre-fight interview, do all the press or the media before the fight. And, yeah, I've always known, like, with my flavor I bring, I'm just doing me. And I know people are going to fuck with it. If they don't, they're still going to watch. They're going to pay. And I'm not talking money. They're going to pay attention.
And something I find very interesting about you, your career, your UFC debut, is that there didn't appear to be any Octagon jitters. You didn't appear to be, concerned or worried or nervous. You didn't seem overwhelmed, yet you were in a position where many fighters would be, because it was your debut. It was, you're a big fight on a big stage. You were on a pay-per-view card, even though it was the prelims, but still, it was one of the bigger cards of the year so far. Why is none of this overwhelming to you?
Like I said, I keep saying I've been doing this a long time, since 2008. I've lived in China in enemy territory, and I fought out there. I was supposed to be one of their one of the like the bums they bring out for the guys to beat up. And eventually, when they realized, they wisened up that they couldn't beat me up, they put me on their squad. I fought in front of like stadiums, 20, 30, 40,000, 50,000 in China. And walking down to the cage just felt like, honestly, it just felt like the same shit, just a different cage. And I just kept the same energy. So all that stuff as well is just kind of shit I've kind of visualized in my head constantly, and I've prepped for. And it's weird when you visualize shit constantly and over and over and over and over and over and over again, it starts to feel like a memory, And then as I was walking out there, even when I watched the fight now, I look at my eyes while Bruce was announcing my name. I was just dead. I was just cold. I wasn't emotional in any way. I just knew I had one thing to do, and that was show off. And that's what I did.
How big of an advantage is that for you in the cage? Because you are so calm. I mean, again, I said the same thing a second ago. You didn't seem to have any octagon jitters. A lot of fighters do. How important and how big of an advantage is being so calm for you?
It's a lot. It's a big advantage. A lot of guys, like you see certain people, like if someone throws a low kick in a fight and another guy checks it, some guys keep throwing that same kick. And it's like, well, if it's not working, why keep doing the same shit? For me, I approach each fight differently. And if something's working, it doesn't have to be shown, to the naked eye. It can be something I feel, and I'll keep doing it. If not, I'll switch my tactics up. And, yeah, for that fight, I just remain calm because it's my UFC debut. I just want to get my foot in the water, get my foot, get my feel in that ocean. And, yeah, I felt like I did so. And being calm in that fight was great. For my next fight, this guy he's a blockhead, but I feel like it's easily penetrable. I can get inside his head like it's nothing. So, and he's emotional. He's overly emotional. So I've got a dance partner to play with me on that one. I can push and pull his energy easily. He's like putty, you know what I mean? Like he's like Play-Doh in my hands. I can manipulate him. I feel it. So, yeah, I can't wait to mess with him a little bit. So that fight might be a different, and also come fight time or maybe weigh-in time or press time, I might get a different vibe from him. So I adapt, I adapt and overcome to whatever the situation is.
Confident and charismatic, but not cocky. In your opinion, is that a fair way to describe you?
I can get a little cocky, excuse my cockiness. But, yeah, I can't apologize for it, it's hard to, like Ali said, it's hard to be humble as great as I am. And, I never really kind of got that quote for the longest time, but a few years ago it finally clicked. I see what he means. But I'm not there yet. I'm not going to say, I'm putting myself in the same air as Ali, but I know we're cut from the same cloth. I know we're cut from the potential of greatness, and not just in the ring, talking in the cage, out the cage. Like, there's a lot of things I want to get done from that kind of, perspective. But, yeah, it's not. I just feel it ain't bragging if you can back it up, man. And he said it best. It ain't bragging if you can back it up. And I keep backing the shit up. So, yeah, I'll keep the same energy. I've said that so many times. I keep the same energy, and I'm going to keep doing me. I'm going to keep doing what got me to the dance. And I'm not going to change. I'm just going to evolve it.
Are you careful not to be over cocky when you fight, or maybe when you talk in a pre-fight or post-fight interview? Because sometimes we've seen in the past cockiness or over cockiness cannot, sometimes doesn't lead to greatness, as you said, doesn't lead to success. Sometimes you fall short when you're too cocky.
Yeah, 100%. You got to respect the game. If you don't respect the game, the game will humble you. So I come in here, and this is the best thing between me and my coach. My coach is like the yin to my yang. He's the opposite of me. So he balances me out well with my flair, my fire, my energy. And yeah, he knows when to put the leash on, and he knows when to let it go. Kind of like what's his name, Jet Li in that movie when he had the collar around his neck. Yeah, he knows how to he knows when to like let me go off, and he knows when to like put the leash back on. It's like, hey, chill. And yeah, they tell you, man. They honestly tell you never overestimate or underestimate anyone, but they never tell you to never overestimate them. So, I mean, no matter what, I'm always gonna just be me. I'm always, like I said, I'll approach each fight differently, but I respect the game, and I respect everyone that gets in there, but I can't show them respect while I'm in there. I'm in there to kill.
So UFC Glendale, you're taking on Marvin Vettori. As far as a time frame goes, is this ideal for you? It'll be about 2 months out from your debut against Wilkinson in Perth last month. We're a month away from that, almost a month away from your next fight. Are you happy to be booked so soon?
Fuck yeah. I mean, 2016, I fought over 20 times. I think close to 25 times. Yeah, so I was fighting. Sometimes I was fighting 3 times in 5 weeks, and this isn't like. I think that one of the ones I did in 2016 when I fought 3 times in 5 weeks, I fought like a French kickboxing champion, I think Waco kickboxing champion. Then I fought an MMA fight, and then after that I fought Baldwin, and I knocked him out as well. I had 2 knockouts in that, so I had the knockout in the MMA one and the Stoica knockout. So I was fighting constantly in 2016. So this is nothing new to me. And I told the UFC, or we told the UFC, we want to stay active. I don't like being inactive. I never get out of shape really, but I just don't like being inactive. I'm always learning. I'm always working. I'm always honing my craft. So I just want to keep showing off. I just want to keep painting masterpieces on that canvas.
Do you kind of wish you were on the same card as your teammate and friend Daniel Hooker? He's, of course, fighting in Atlantic City the following week. I know you guys mentioned, or you mentioned that your training camp sort of aligned, but the fight ultimately in different spots of the country, different cards. Do you wish you were on the same card, or is it actually nice to be able to focus on your fight and then maybe, go to his fight and support him wholeheartedly?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's better to focus on me for that fight, and then after that we focus on Dan and get him through Jim Miller. And also I think everything fell into perfect place because it gives me a chance to tour the East Coast, because I was going to come back home, but my coach just said hang around and come to Dan's fight. So it's in New Jersey. I'm sure I can catch a train to New York. I haven't seen the East Coast yet. I just want to have a look around and then go watch Dan destroy, what's his name, Jimmy.
This will be your first MMA fight in the U.S. You've had a couple, I think 3 kickboxing matches in the U.S. Are you excited to be making your MMA debut in America, or does it not really matter to you?
I'm excited because I know, the last card, got a few viewers, people saw me, but I'm excited that I'm going to be on the main card this time. I think third to last, apparently. It doesn't really matter because it's worldwide now. Sorry, it doesn't really matter because it's worldwide now. People can watch, anywhere in the world, Fight Pass, whatnot. But, to be doing it in Arizona, Glendale, different crowd, different town, and I get to see that side of the world. So, I'm happy to be doing that and making my MMA debut in the U.S.
Fair enough. What was your reaction when you got the call to fight Vettori? Did you know anything about him? And also, do you look at this as just another fight, or do you look at this all as a step up? Like, is this a clear step up in competition? Maybe your toughest test to date?
I don't think it's my toughest test to date, MMA. I've had tougher. All it took was one look from UFC 219 in the MGM, walking past him, after his fight, he was, I think, walking with his crew to the club. I gestured to him, good fight, and he gave me a weird look, and I didn't like his energy, and that's all it took. I told my coach right there I want to fight that guy, and he kind of smirked. Then I attract these things. I attract these fuck boys. So when it was time and the offer got laid between a few guys in the division, I pointed to him because I knew he's young, he's strapping. He knows what he's doing, but he's definitely not faced anyone like me. And, I can give you the whole spiel, blah, 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 whatever. But, I just knew.
So you crossed paths with him.
That guy.
So you met him briefly in December. He didn't say anything to you, or did he say mumble something? We were
watching this fight backstage, and me and my team were laughing. Me, Dan, and Eugene were just kind of cracking up at the fight he had. He had like a fucking... His fight looked like it was a bum fight, like 2 drunk bums fighting outside a parking lot, some bar somewhere. And we were just kind of laughing at just the lack of technique in their stand-up and even their ground game, their transitions and shit. And it was just sloppy. So, but, they went to a draw. It was a hard fight. He had heart. He took some big shots in there. So I was like, I think through the MGM. And he kind of just... I acknowledge people. Just, I was raised right. So I don't know. Maybe this game is supposed to be ruthless and cutthroat, but I'm a nice guy, I feel. So I gestured to him, good fight, and he just gave me a weird look and a weird energy. I think he knew because I'm in his weight class, and he knew who the fuck I was. Like, I called all these boys out, like, you know who the fuck I am now, you can't pretend. So he's one of those guys that kind of, like, acted like he didn't know me. I was like, well, and I didn't like that energy, man. If I show you even the slightest bit of respect, you better show it back. If not, we have problems. So, that's all it took was one look, a weird look with some weird energy with it, and now we're going to fight, and he's going to lose.
Do you feel like Vettori is not the right opponent, but do you think he's the fair next opponent for you? Considering it seems to be, even though you don't maybe think too highly of his game, he seems to be a bit of a step up from your last opponent. But also, although we've seen a lot of his striking in the UFC, he's a decent grappler as well. And grapplers, let's be honest, they're going to give you your toughest test. Do you think he's the right opponent for you?
Yeah, I think I'm not, like I said, I never underestimate anyone, but I never overestimate them as well. They're just people. He might pull out, he might get injured, he might get scared, something might happen, it might pop for something. I don't know. So someone else might have to jump in. So I don't focus too much on the opponents. I just keep doing me. I focus on me. And my coaches focus on the game plan. I just focus on the gameplay. That's it. I just want to get in there, get the job done, and be out. Get my money and go, and enjoy the city as well. Enjoy the sights, enjoy the vibe of the whole thing. But yeah, he's a step up, but at the same time, he's not on my level. Steps below my level.
I want to talk about your backstory a little bit. You moved from Nigeria to New Zealand in 2001. Why did your parents at that time decide to make that move? And was it a difficult move, a difficult transition for you as a kid, or at the time you were still growing up?
Yeah, I mean, we were going to move to the States at the time in 2001, but then 9/11 happened, and my dad kind of felt America was on the brink of war, so we decided not to make that move and decided to move to New Zealand, which I had no idea where the fuck it was, and came here not realizing I was black. Well, I knew I was black, but I didn't really think it was a problem. But then when I moved here, I kind of realized it might be a problem because a lot of people weren't really feeling me. And I think people just kind of feared what they didn't understand because I was, one of the only black people or black kids in a little town. And, yeah, I had to learn how to defend myself early on. But dancing was what got me my street cred. Once they realized I could dance good, they were like, oh, yeah, he's cool. But, yeah, you still get fuckboys and basically just trying to get at you because you're different. So that's part of life. It's part of growing up. It's all the stuff that made me part of who I am today, good and the bad.
Was racism an unfortunate part of your childhood growing up in New Zealand, sort of the new guy there, new kid around, new kid on the block, and he doesn't look like everyone else? Was racism an unfortunate part of what you had to go through?
Yeah, man, still is. I mean, every single day. It's just something that honestly, you get bulletproof to. There's levels to it, though. There's levels to it, I haven't tried to buy a house yet, so I don't think I'm going to have a problem with that because now it's not even racism. There's, like, classism in that level. But, hey, the UFC are looking after me, so I'm getting these checks. But, yeah, racism is just, yeah, it's part of life. There are unfortunately racists out there wherever in the world you go. Even in Nigeria, they're still racist against their own people and against different cultures, subcultures. But it's just, yeah, it's how you navigate it and how you let it define who you are. You're going to let it make you or break you. So it's not something that I let break me ever. I never let anyone decide my destiny. I make my own destiny. And, yeah, I rose above it. I rose above all this.
Interesting. When you were a kid still growing up, maybe not totally understanding why people didn't like you or why they were saying certain things, it must have, obviously, as you said, it was tough. Did you ever want, have thoughts, I want to go back to Nigeria, I like that better, it seems more like home? Did you ever have thoughts like that before you really understood exactly what was going on?
Yeah, honestly, the curriculum back home was real hard. Like, in Nigerian schools was way, 4 times harder than it is here. When I first came to Form 1 here, I had to do Form 1 again because I was too young to be in Form 1 at the time. So, and they were doing times table, which was shit I learned when I was 6. And the kids were always asking me real dumb questions like, do you ride elephants at home? And speaking to me in real slow, like I was a retard or something. And I went home Mom, I think these kids are all broken. They're all stupid because they didn't really, or what they see it's not their fault as well. It's also what they see on the media. So what they see on the media is their perspective at the time. They just thought, Africans are just, world UNICEF kids or whatever, and we need help all the time, and Tarzan and all this shit. So they had no concept of what Nigeria was like. So I was a kid as well. So I was like, man, I think these kids are fucking dumb. That's what I thought. But yeah, as I grow older, as I learned, the difference, between who to fuck with and who not to fuck with. And as I got my little circle going and as I matured, yeah, like I said, I rose above it all. And now it's still a part of life, but it's not something I dwell on. And, yeah, I don't even give a fuck about it. I just, unless it affects me directly or people I care about. And sometimes I have to, like, speak up on it when it's too much in the media, and it's like, fuck, okay, this shit gotta stop, But, yeah, it's not something I dwell on, I'm here to fight. I don't give a fuck. My hands don't discriminate. My feet don't discriminate. I'll kick anyone in the face.
What do you mean by you don't dwell on it too much unless it's directly impacting you? What can you sort of expand on that a little bit?
Exactly what I said. Unless it's directly impacting me, impacting my money, my ability to look after my people, my ability to keep doing my sport, to keep living the life I love living, then I'm like, cool. If you want to be racist, I'd rather know someone's racist and just know, I don't fuck with you. But then when it starts to get to a point where it's like it hinders me from doing certain things, which it has in the past, and I'm not going to go into it, then I'm like, all right, we got a problem now, and I might have to get a real Nigerian on them, get some Django shit going.
You said growing up in school, there was a lot of, kids that, just weren't your biggest fan. Did you still have some friends, though, that sort of understood that, hey, it doesn't matter that you're from a different country, different part of the world, you're still you're still a human being. Did you still have quite a few friends?
Fuck yeah, 100%. I mean, those are people I fuck with. I mean, go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. So this is little things I learned along the way. This is life. It teaches you these lessons, and along the way, I've learned who to fuck with, who not to fuck with, or who my energy blends with, who it doesn't. And if my energy doesn't blend with anyone regarding of race, religion, sexual orientation, whatever, it doesn't mean they're a bad person. It's just the energies don't mix, and that's okay. That's just avoid that energy and go to where you're celebrated, not tolerated. So yeah, I only fuck with those who fuck with me worldwide.
Did these issues you had as someone new in New Zealand, having to defend yourself, did that directly lead to starting combat sports, starting MMA, starting kickboxing, starting to train?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I learned, what's the name? I watched Ombak, and I decided I wanted to learn Muay Thai because I just knew in the town I was living at the time, I moved to another town, and the town I was living at the time, I knew I had to defend myself from just fuckboys and, ruffians, so I had to learn something. And I already had Taekwondo kind of under my belt, which kept me relatively safe, but I hadn't practiced it in years, and I couldn't just dance battle everyone who I had a beef with, so I had to learn how to scrap up.
Very interesting. Something I read on your Wikipedia page, actually, is your parents, initially you wanted to be a dancer, that you wanted that to be your career. Your parents didn't want that to be your career. They wanted you to get a degree and have a more common profession, so to speak. How did it take a little convincing to, go to your parents and say, hey, I want to be a pro fighter, kickboxer, MMA fighter? Did that take a little convincing, considering they wanted you to get a degree and have a more common job, I guess might be the right terminology?
Yeah, they just had to see the checks roll in. Once they could see, like, oh, he's making a good living out of this, and they could see the potential, and they started to get on board. But before that, no, it was just straight, get a degree. And yeah, I mean, having to tell African parents that you wanted to be a fighter, from a country where not many, I mean, great boxers from Nigeria, but not many mixed martial artists that were doing it big at the time. So I couldn't really say this is the blueprint. I had to do it myself. So yeah, I'm one of the many Africans in the UFC now. But yeah, for my parents, it's a big step. If I tell my dad I want to go back to school today, he'd freak out. So I'm good where I'm at. I don't need a degree. I got a degree in ass whooping.
What exactly did their stance change? When did they realize that or see your potential? Because it couldn't have been like your first ever fight, could it have been? When exactly did they sort of change their feelings?
When the checks started rolling in, when the nice money started rolling in my bank account, that I was able to pay my bills and still have some money left over to just live life. And they realized, okay, he's pretty good at this. He can really get this done, and that's what changed their mind.
As far as a fight, though, like how many fights in? Do you remember how many fights into your career?
Nope. Don't remember. I remember it was in China.
Okay.
I think China was the one I was paying the most, so yeah, they were happy with that.
A little while ago, though? They've been on board for quite some time?
About 3 years, 4 years now.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, man.
If you didn't move to New Zealand, if your parents didn't decide to move to if they didn't decide to move to New Zealand, they decided to stay in Nigeria or go somewhere else, would you have found MMA?
I don't know. They have to go to a parallel universe and find that out. Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I would have. Maybe I would have found another combat sport. But fighting always chose me. I never really chose fighting, so I bet you would have found me another way.
Okay. Israel, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it greatly. And thank you for talking about some things that, personal information, so to speak, all the racism and things you had to deal with growing up. I appreciate you sort of giving me that side of you as well as your fighting career. Before I let you go, let my audience know if they're not already following you, because I know your follower count has gone up on Twitter quite a bit since that debut. Let them know where they can find you, and any thank yous, any shoutouts. The floor is yours.
Yeah, man. Just find me on Facebook.com/TheLastStyleBender or Twitter and Instagram @StyleBender. I keep it 100.